Well, travelers, what are some of the worst tourist traps you have encountered? What can be done to catch it beforehand? Story 1. If you go to Bangkok and are on the way to the Grand Palace, you will encounter very friendly guys falsely telling you that the Grand Palace is closed due to some ceremonies. They're very friendly and are good salesmen. They offer to take you on a tuk-tuk ride to other temples for a really good price. On the way to these other temples, the tuk-tuk driver will be very friendly and tries to win your trust. After the second temple or so, he will start talking about some great promotion for a tailor that makes custom-made suits, or about some promotion of emerald sales, and will eventually drive you to one of those places, and if you refuse to buy anything, the friendliness changes. The tuk-tuk driver will just take you to the next temple, and then disappears after you paid him. How to avoid this scam? Be very suspicious of very friendly Thai people around the Grand Palace telling you that the Grand Palace is closed. The best is probably just to say thank you and not get involved in any conversation with them. Story 2. PSA. The Staten Island ferry is free. If people are trying to charge you for tickets, they're scam artists. If you're traveling to New York, it's worth visiting for the views, especially considering the cost or lack thereof. Story 3. Los Ramblas in Barcelona. Lovely city, but everybody hypes up this one street that's crowded full of people. It's practically highlighted in every tour guide of the city, yet I still don't understand the draw. Every restaurant and shop on the street is a tourist trap, as well overpriced and under quality. It's much more worth your time to stroll around a Gothic neighborhood, if the city, rather than Los Ramblas. Story 4. Fiji. Walking along the street, and friendly locals will greet you with Beulah, Vinaka, hello, and beautiful smiles. Every now and then one will start a conversation with you and ask you for your name. Before you know it, they are carving your name into traditional wooden spears and shields, etc., then asking you for money for the work you never asked for. They will look upset when you tell them you don't want it, and they will explain that now they can't sell the item because they carved your name into it already, and they will follow you down the street reducing their price until you finally agree. Best advice: be friendly. Say hello. Don't give anyone your name. Story 5. If someone offers you something for free, don't take it. They will dump it on you, make it as hard as possible to take it back, and then pressure you for money. I am talking about how in Italy people will approach you offering a bracelet attached tight, and then ask you to pay them. Also, any restaurant that has watermark pictures on their menus. Story 6. At the pyramids in Egypt, people with fake badges will tell you that you are required to pay them extra to see the Sphinx. It's included with your park ticket. Story 7. Rome's touristy areas are unbearable. Every single popular site or place features the same mob of sketchy and all-around annoying characters. Friendship bracelets, fake petitions, fake charities, shitty toys, and souvenirs. You can't take 2 steps without somebody trying to hassle you. The Vatican isn't even immune to this. While approaching it, you still have scammers dressed in outfits to trick people they are part of the staff. They basically scam elderly and others into believe they bought the wrong ticket. We joke that the Vatican felt like Hollywood BLVD, but religious. Then, on top of all of this, the food around these areas are scams as well, designed to trick gullible travelers out of their money. I ate the best pasta I've ever had in Rome, and I've ate the worst. Don't get me wrong, I love Rome as a whole, but man, do their tourist areas. Story 8. In Turkey, shoe shine operators accidentally dropping the brush in front of you, then offering to clean your shoes after you stop to pick it up, followed by charging an extortionate price for the job. Story 9. I was in Paris walking with a female friend, and some guy in front of us picked up a ring off the floor and motioned to ask if it was hers. She said no, but he insisted she take it. I said, don't. He's trying to get money off of you. And she said no. He just picked it up off the floor. Sure enough, he asked her for money. She gave him a little. I guess it wasn't enough, so he asked for the ring back. When we walked away, I said, you know that guy just took you for a ride, right? We're from NYC, so she felt very ashamed. Edit. Speaking of being from New York, I worked COVID in Times Square at a Broadway theater. If you take a picture with one of those characters on the street, a bunch of them will come over out of nowhere and get in the shot and all expect money. I see it all the time. I'm not one of those bags who's like, don't bother going to Times Square. That's not the real New York. It's definitely something to be seen, especially at night, but I suggest staying away for the costume characters. Unlicensed cabs. Always use a registered company, especially for safety. Never mind. Financially, a lot of countries have Uber equivalent. Philippines has Grab. Bali has Bluetooth. Story 10. If you're a young guy and some attractive women come out of nowhere thinking you're cute and asking to go to a bar, don't go. There's a very common scam where they'll start ordering ridiculously priced alcohol for you all night. You only find out at the end of the night when you get a bill for hundreds of dollars. Story 11. If you go to Rome and visit Vatican City, on the way to the Vatican, there will be people trying to sell you tickets, as the queues are very long today. They say that every day, all day, every day. Ignore them. You don't even get to see the Pope. Story 12. Look up exchange rates before you get there. And use ATMs inside bank branches. There are companies who operate ATMs in airports and train stations who just want to take advantage of confused tourists by offering them exchange rates and setting the default amount for withdrawal too high. In Prague, for example, some ATMs have as their default withdrawal amounts the equivalent of a month's rent. Story 13. This is for Paris, great city. Couple of tips. The Louvre. There's excellent art in l'Orangerie and the Musée d'Orsay, just a short walk away, without having 200 tourists as part of the same tour group walking 40 abreast like a wall of humanity up the corridors. My recommendation is to make sure you have the museum pass. You can buy them online and have them shipped to you before you even head out, so you can enter museums when you like, preferably later in the day when they're all doing something else like trying to fit 200 people into a small CAF. If it's too crowded, hit the next point of interest and come back another time. People pick the Louvre because it's popular, which makes it more popular, which makes people pick it more. Travel. There's a travel pass that's never pushed to tourists because it was never designed for tourism. It's a Monday to Sunday weekly pass. There's a monthly one too that goes from the first of the month for longer stays called the Navigode Covert. You need a photo for the photo card. That part costs $5 on top. But even with that, it's cheaper to buy that weekly Navigo than the Paris Visite card that's aimed at tourists. And you look less like a tourist too, so you're less likely to be accosted by sneaky people. This video explains everything about it. Story 14. In Istanbul, I connected with two random dudes. We had some beer together at a bar. Spent a good 2-3 hours there. I bought them a few beers, and they offered me beers Oswell. Had a genuine good time, as I often do when meeting strangers since I travel alone most of the times. When the bar closed, they said they knew a good place nearby, so naturally we went there. They ordered a bottle of whiskey, cheap one, and some girls came to our table also. Not unusual, but they were working girls, not whores, but charged for company, and no one told me this. When the bill came, it came with 3 gorilla-like Turks, 3,600 euros. My friend said we all pay the same amount, but they had already paid at the bar. Things escalate. I was alone in Istanbul, 400 in the morning, drunk, angry, and afraid. Oddly enough, I slapped one gorilla open-handed over the face, drunk mode. So they carried me out front and said some, and let me go. I would still have paid for the whiskey, and possibly for one of the girls' company, but not 3,600. Story 15. We wanted to visit the Colosseum in Rome. All the way towards it from the tube station, there are dozens of people offering discounted tours. You join a group, they get you in for a reduced price. Seems good, except it isn't. These tour tickets are about 20 per person, which seems reasonable until you get to the entrance to the Colosseum and see that it's 12 for an adult or 2 for a student. My wife and I got in for 14 because she still had a valid student ID. The exact same thing happened on the way to the Vatican. People coming up to us insisting that it's cheaper to get in if we buy museum tickets. It costs nothing to go into the Vatican. They rely on tourists who don't know any better, see the queue for the Vatican Museum, and think it's the queue to get inside the city. It isn't. Story 16. My wife and I went to Rome for our honeymoon. This was my first time traveling abroad, but my wife had traveled her entire life. We were walking from the Trevi Fountain to the Spanish Steps when we were approached by a man who gave my wife a rose and was very friendly to us. Immediately, I told my wife to give it back, and she was irritated with me, saying that he gave it to her as a gift. He was asking if we were from the U.S., if we were married, and if he could take our picture using our camera. While saying no to him, I kept telling my wife to give it back. She refused. After a few minutes, his friendliness disappeared, and he jabbed me in the shoulder and pressed his index finger and thumb together, demanding money. We had been married for 5 days, and our first fight as a married couple is when I yelled at her, "Give him the rose back now." She didn't believe it was a scam until I pointed out all of the other men who were doing the same exact thing to other tourists. It doesn't matter where you go, keep your head on a swivel. Story 17. In India, in a lot of popular tourist spots, photographers will compliment you and start taking pictures of you. They'll ask you to pose this way and that, and then they charge an exorbitant amount for the pictures. You just have to be rude because they are very persistent and will start following you. Story 18. I'm not a super well-traveled person yet, but I did get trapped pretty good in New Orleans. If someone comes up to you in New Orleans and asks you where you got your shoes, the proper answer is on my feet. If they ask where you from my mama, keep walking and don't let them polish or clean your shoes, because they'll charge you for that and for their talk. Story 19. Pay very close attention to signing for your hire car after a long flight. I told the server at Budget Car Hire in Miami twice that I didn't want any extras and just to have what ID paid for, and he still sneakily slid on cover that I didn't want nor need. Same attempt by a different company in Ireland caught before I signed. Set NAV for 100, I think not. Read the print and question the numbers. Story 20. If you're in Rome at any big tourist site Colosseum, Spanish Steps, etc., or just anywhere on the streets where there are people selling trinkets and a guy tries to show you bracelets, do not let them. They will put them onto your wrist and demand high payments for them. Like a you wore it, you bought it type situation, even though you didn't want to wear it. Went to Italy in February with a group from my school, and like 7 people got scammed this way. One kid lost 50 to it. Also, if you're in outdoor markets like the Mercato Nuovo in Florence, always haggle. Things are priced way higher than they are actually valued because they know tourists will spend ridiculous amounts of money. One kid I was with got a $250 leather jacket for $75. The people selling things know they're overpriced. That's why they'll take the prices down so much. The best advice my teacher gave us was to ask for what you think is a reasonable price, and if they say no, to start a walk away. Chances are they'll chase after you because they want to make the sale. Story 21. My dad, brother, and I took a trip to Egypt. We booked a tour with a local guide, and the experience was great. However, after we saw the pyramids, we were brought to look at some local stores. Basically, you take a look around, and the shopkeepers do some convincing, and you end up buying some cheap, like a poster made out of genuine Egyptian paper, or exquisite cologne. My dad knew what they were doing, but he decided to buy some to support local business. If you want to avoid things like this, just look at reviews, and if you find yourself in this situation, either be persistent in refusing, or buy the cheapest thing there to satisfy them. Story 22. Do not ride the donkeys or horses at Petra. They are terribly mistreated by their handlers and are often forced to carry more weight than they can handle. They're also kept in terrible conditions and starved. If you are too fat and lazy to do the hike yourself, don't force some poor donkey to carry your fat up the side of a mountain. Also, don't buy the sand bottles at Petra, as they take the sand rocks from the archaeological sites, which contribute to its degradation. Another thing, if you take guided tours, there's almost always a part where they stop at some place like a factory or an artisan studio where they show you how people make things. I always just pass on these, as they're usually overpriced tourist traps that the tour company has an agreement with. It's why I usually don't take tours at all. Story 23. In Jamaica, we went on one of the guided hikes through the Duns River Falls. The exit is completely covered in a maze of pretty typical touristy gift shop type tents selling cheap manufactured garbage. Of course, we coincidentally had to wait for the buses, so we had nowhere to go except the tents. My GF, and I, both 18 at the time, from America, meandered around with zero intention of buying anything, but we were dumb enough to entertain the salesman by letting them talk to us. One asked our names, and when we answered, he carved them into the side of a wooden tiki head and tried handing it to us. We were taken aback because we obviously hadn't asked him to do that, but then he started demanding we pay him for it, because otherwise he would lose his stock for nothing. I tried to lie about not having money to spend on it, and it was uncomfortable at most until one of the other salesmen blocked the entrance out of the tent and started saying that we were essentially shoplifting from them. We knew it was possible to give them the name of the hotel we were staying and have them charge us through there, but there was no way I was actually paying them or letting them know where I was sleeping, so I just put one of the other resorts and a fake last name and told them to charge us. Luckily, they let us go. Pretty freaked out through. I kept that tiki head for about 10 years as my trophy for swindling swindlers, LMAO. Story 24. I went to London with my friends for the weekend while I was still in uni. We wanted to go to a certain nightclub in London, so we pulled up Google Maps and were discussing the club. A local man, early 20s, overheard us and offered to bring us there. We were cautious and stayed a bit behind him while he walked us through the streets. He brought us to the nightclub, and we thanked him profusely. We joined the queue, and on entry had to pay $15. While paying, we noticed this man had taken a few more girls to the club and winked at the doorman. Later in the club, we were chatting with locals that were bewildered. We paid $15 on entry. Apparently, the club had no entry fee. Story 25. When I was in China, we went bar hopping on Lake Shikahai and stayed out past when the subway closed. Couldn't get a cheap way home, and the taxi cabs know they're the only way home and charged us 4 times the usual fare. Know the transportation system. Story 26. Navy Pier and the Sears Tower in Chicago. If you're a tourist in the city, take an architecture boat tour instead and have a drink at the Signature Room in the Hancock and enjoy the view from there. Story 27. Not a specific tourist trap, but some advice how to avoid them when dining out. So you're in a popular touristy hub and looking for a nice sit-down to dine at. First rule, avoid chains restaurants. If you've heard of it and you're from way out of town, chances are you've not heard of it because it's good, but because it's commercial. Like, Joe's Crab Shack is nothing special. You're just paying $20 more for pretty basic crab. But the next big one is avoid places that are on the main strip of either walks or roads. If it seems really easy to find get to, chances are they do large volumes, and that almost never means higher quality. Your best bet are the places that are a block away from the main hub. Also, if you ever see TripAdvisor approved, or the like, it literally doesn't indicate anything. except they were savvy enough to pay for that sticker endorsement. Best advice is to consult a local. Don't be too annoying about it. Remember, they don't want their local spot to get flooded with yuppies, but they want the business to do well. Story 28, let me tell you about the time I wasn't scammed at Versailles. There were 2 lanes, a short lane for people who already had tickets and a very long one for people who hadn't. Someone approached me to tell me she had a couple of tickets she couldn't use for some reason. I don't remember what, but it made sense, and she could sell them to me. There was a green flag in that she had a distinct Quebec accent. So she was obviously a tourist. I went to check with her, and they were indeed valid. So my girlfriend and I were able to skip the 2H-long queue to visit Versailles. Story 29. Just don't go checkpoint Charlie Fisherman's Wharf Street. Lewis Archie think they're tourist traps, but they're not Bourbon Street Stonehenge. Story 30. Never let a street seller hand you anything. They want to take it back. Once it is in your hands, they consider it sold and will bully or threaten you until you give them money. Story 31. Nessieland in Loch Ness was the best worst tourist trap I've ever spent money on, and I highly recommend it. It was exactly the level of cheese I wanted, full throttle cheese with no holds. You can certainly spend a lot of money in the museum, and they set up to do so, but they're super chill at the end of the day and embrace their cheesiness. The entire museum is like one giant episode of Unsolved Mysteries meets a 3 a.m. rerun on the History Channel about ancient aliens. Worth every penny. Story 32. Zero exchange, when in reality, it was 50. Just search up trusted money exchange places before that are approved by locals. ATM scam, wiggle at the credit card slot before putting UR card in any kind of credit card slot. If there's a device to read out UR info, it just comes loose. And one thing that literally happened to me in my own country, which I'm still mad that I let it happen. A Japanese woman came up and gave me a rose, then demanded $5. I was eating fries at the time and wanted to get one more load of fries. Because of that, I had no money for more fries. Was the last time I ate fries there, and he literally had the best in the country, and now he's closed. All thanks to that. Man, I hate her and wish her the worst. Scammer. Don't accept anything that people put in your hands. Story 33. Scammers at Sacré-Cœur in Paris. They block a choke point on the stairs up to the top of the hill and will pester you about signing some petition. I got Deaf Refugee Children Charity. It's a tatty piece of paper with some black and white UN logos and crooked deaf symbols that they obviously made into a collage type thing and photocopied. This scam is normally run by women, and they are not afraid to use their children. If you're lucky, they will just demand some money after you sign. If you're unlucky, you'll get pickpocketed while distracted and signing. This happened to someone at my hostel. I was having none of it and told them in English I wasn't interested and tried to walk around. This pissed them off, so they made a big scene about me being an evil American who wants our deaf children to be murdered with bombs, wailing, and everything. It was quite something. I've come across a lot of beggars and scammers, but this was by far the most memorable. My advice would be just pretend not to understand French or English. Don't engage and keep your hands over your pockets. That pretty much goes for anyone that approaches you at any European tourist trap, TBH. Story 34. Sound counterintuitive, but when you go to Iceland, pick an airport restaurant and have a decent meal there and stock up at the duty-free shop. Don't just sprint for the airport exit. Iceland will still be there in an hour. Most people are in such a rush to get out of the airport, they don't consider that the international terminal is their final chance to dodge Iceland's impressively high tax on prepared foods and alcohol. The airport in Reykjavik has some pretty good food, and there's no tax in the international terminal. Story 35. Do not ever rent a jet ski in Thailand. The bottom is damaged, and they will claim you did it and hold your group at gunpoint while one of you gets the money, and the police won't help you. They get a cut. Story 36. There's a Harry Potter gift shop in King's Cross Station that's very popular with tourists. Outside the shop, there's a free photo op where you look like you're pushing a trolley through the platform 934, which leads you directly into the shop. It is just a small gift shop and train station, but it's always packed to bursting with tourists, COVID notwithstanding, buying grossly overpriced merch. The shop isn't even a film location, and the station has been renovated since they shot the films anyway. Likewise, any Harry Potter film tour of London. Be prepared to sit in a minivan and get shown various walls and doorways around London, which have no obvious connection to the films. If you're that interested in Harry Potter, honestly, I'd advise you stuck up the price of the studio tour and go to that instead. Literally anything else you'll see surrounding the franchise is a tourist trap. Source: I've either been to or worked at these places and am still employed by one, hence the throwaway. Story 37. A lot of popular sites are surrounded by unofficial tour guides. They may have a badge or an official-looking uniform, but if they approach you and ask if you want to hire a guide, it's best to politely decline. A lot of them have no idea what they're talking about. I had a guide at Machu Picchu who claimed that the Inca were an ideal communist society. Then he took a break halfway through the tour to try and sell us essential oils. Real tour guides won't approach you and give you a sales pitch if you want a guided tour. Arrange it ahead of time. Story 38. Don't know if I count as a world traveler, 26 countries out of 195, but in general, I do not get the appeal at all of trashy hostels or party hotels. I'm still young myself, early 20s, but I think they're horrid places and absolute tourist traps, but somehow they're considered cool by many people I've encountered in my generation. Usually they come with entire city quarters filled with bad food, trashy service, and a lot of sketchy salespeople. Story 39. One common problem I've run into is taxi drivers trying to scam you. In South Korea, a lot of taxis will either try to overcharge you by not running the meter or straight up quote you 3x the correct price if you're white and drive off if you don't agree. Similar problems in Bangkok. Fortunately, both countries have apps you can use to order taxis. They're just difficult to find and download, but definitely possible if you ask a local or your hotel staff. Story 40. If you're in New Orleans and someone says, I know where you got dem shoes that you should answer on my feet, or I got my shoes on Bourbon Street, or whatever street you're on, then keep walking. They want to bet you they know where you got dem shoes. It's a quick way to lose 20. Also, the shot girls on Bourbon are not giving you a free shot. It costs money. If they had you a drink, hand it back or say no thank you and keep walking. Best advice in New Orleans, if someone yells for you, keep walking. Story 41. When at an airport, if you're walking toward the cab taxi line and an employee pulls you aside to tell you that he will help you get another cab, and Husha proceeds to walk you away from the official cab taxi waiting area, chances are they're going to scam you into taking a much more expensive car service. Just because they're airport employees don't mean they have your interest at heart. They're often working alongside these other services, so they can get a cut. And on a similar note, when possible, just take public transportation when possible. It's cheaper, and it's a part of the traveling experience. Story 42. We were warned by our hotel in Beijing that the taxi drivers can get pretty aggressive with money. The first time we took a taxi, we asked what the cost would be from where we were back to our hotel. The driver said 100. We asked whether that was in yuan or dollars. She kept repeating 100 until we decided to walk away. And then she clarified that it would be 100 yuan, roughly $1,314. When we got to the hotel, she locked the doors and demanded $100, not yuan. Luckily, the hotel staff were watching and came over and handled the situation for us. We were very careful with our taxi rides after that. Edit to add that in many places in Europe, the waiter has set water bottles down on the table without asking us if we want water, and then charged us exorbitant prices for the bottles, like €5 for a glass of water. If you're in Europe and they set water down in front of you, it is not free. Ask them to take it away, or you will likely be charged for it. Story 43. In Peru, and I assume elsewhere too, lots of restaurants have what they call the menu turistico, or literally tourist menu. On it you'll find things like pizza, spaghetti, and cheeseburgers. Not wanting to be outdone by the place a couple doors down with the exact same menu. They'll have all kinds of deals. Buy one, get one free, drink and dinner combo. Choose any three, stuff like that. They also tend to have someone standing outside to thrust the menu in your face and try to lead you in, because clearly you flew halfway around the world to eat authentic Peruvian spaghetti. They may have a couple more traditional dishes as well, but they're really hoping you'll pop in and buy some frozen pizza for about what you pay back home. While traveling there, we chose our eating spots only if there was no menu turistico and no one standing out front thrusting said menu in our face. Sometimes those sorts of places were a little off the main street, like the great little place we ate lunch at one day that was full of exclusively locals that spoke zero English. Those sorts of places have a menu of the day, I forget the Spanish, and ITLL be one dish, or maybe two you could choose from for a fixed price. Some people may find that sort of thing to be intimidating, but everyone was friendly, and ordering off a menu with one thing on it is pretty easy. They also tend to be much cheaper than the places trying to attract tourists, as they're catering to locals. We paid about $2 after the exchange rate for a plate of food that was too much to finish. Story 44. Egypt made me experience the most number of scams in the shortest span of time. It was so common that even when someone was genuinely nice, I found myself second-guessing. Actually, I did make a compilation video regards scams and travel hacks from that trip. Maybe it could be useful for you as well if you're looking forward to going there soon. Story 45. If you ever visit Sacré-Cœur Basilica in Paris, watch out for the shady African immigrants at the bottom of the stairs trying to put string bracelets on people. They will do it by force and ask for donations for welcoming you on your visit. They cajoled 40 out of me after promising me change. Also, if your Metro card doesn't work, push the help button instead. Make no attempt to jump the turnstile. Or the police will make you post a 60 fine directly to them with threats of taking your passport to the authorities. It was a rough day for me. Beautiful church, though. Story 46, why are the top 20 or so comments all scams? There's a big difference between a tourist trap and a scam, but a really bad tourist trap is Schloss Neuschwanstein and Schloss Hohenschwangau in Bavaria. Both castles are expensive to see. You have to go at a very specific time printed on your ticket, and then the tour is lightning fast with no time to linger and enjoy things. It's all over in a blink. Photos cost extra, and that is enforced super duper crowded. Not at all worth it. Edit typo. Story 47 cities in Italy are excruciating. I bought a €5 12-ounce bottle of water at some cafe in Venice. Took it outside and sat down at one of the tables out front. The instant I touched the chair, one of their employees sprinted outside to tell me that I now owed them a €10 table fee. They had literally been watching me and waiting for me to sit down because they knew an American would never expect a table fee. Story 48, two experiences on the other end of the spectrum. The first, I took a trip across the country with a buddy that was moving to San Diego from the East Coast. We stopped in Amarillo, Texas at the Big Texan Steakhouse, fully expecting to just take an Instagram photo, pay too much money for crappy food, and a watered-down Texas marg, and leave. Holy was I wrong, it was the best steak I've ever had, and one marg nearly put me on my. I guess it was so good because I could see my steak's cousin eating grass out the window. Amazing food, amazing marg, really good wait staff, and it was less than 30 each. I don't care if it's a tourist trap, it's one I would get caught in again, any day. Second experience, I was in Seattle for a conference. Two of the people with me wanted to walk to the weed dispensary. I'm not really into weed, but I walked with them. On the way back to the hotel, we took a different route and apparently walked through the homeless camp area of Seattle. A guy comes up to me and goes, "Excuse me, sir, could you spare some change for some crack cocaine?" It kind of took me off guard. I was expecting him to ask for cash, but not in such a straightforward way. I guess my shock showed on my face, and he started laughing and goes, "Bro, him, just with you, have a nice day," and chuckled as he walked off. LOL. Story 49, haven't seen this posted yet, but in Paris, coming out of a train station, there were young, pretty girls asking for donations to a charity, brandishing notebooks with the names of people who had donated. My friends and I were approached by one. We declined and tried to walk away, but she followed us holding out her pen, asking us to write our names in the notebook and donate. We broke into a run, and this girl took her pen and straight up stabbed me in the arm with it before giving up. Story 50, the Four Corners. It costs $15 a person. Aside from overpriced tortillas and crafts, there's nothing to do except take a picture. Not to mention the fact that it isn't actually on the Four Corners. It's like 200-ish feet away, entirely in Colorado, so it's not legit. Story 51, if you're ever in New Orleans and a guy with a cute puppy asks you if you want anything fun, walk away. On the other hand, if a lady in a cool camper van pulls up next to you, opens up the side to expose a full bar with a piano, and asks you what mood you're in, definitely tell her. She'll make you a drink and play you a song based on your mood, and if the cops come, she'll say, "Oh," and peel out of there. If you're out there, New Orleans van lady, I love you. Story 52, not exactly a world traveler, but this happened in Cocoa Beach, Florida, while my family and I were on vacation. While we stopped to look at a menu for a food shack, a Westgate employee approached us. Westgate is a timeshare company, and timeshare are awful scams. He said that the new Cocoa Beach location was having a grand opening deal. They offered a $100 MasterCard gift card for a meal at an all-inclusive buffet if we listened to their short presentation. They said we would be back at the beach in 90 minutes. My parents thought it was a good deal, and we knew that we weren't going to buy a timeshare, but that a free meal and gift card would be nice. So we hopped in their van with one or two other families. We arrived at the buffet, and there were cheap microwave hot dogs and some canned chili. Yum. Not what we were expecting, but we could deal with it if we would be back soon. The presentation took 5 hours, and then they took us on a tour to their suites. The presentation included blatant lies, guilt tripping, and for only X amount more you could get this suite. We ended up spending 5 hours for the sucky scam, and obviously we didn't buy timeshare. We lost a beach day because we had tickets to visit an overlooked tower in a nearby city soon after. Lesson: don't take free stuff. It might be worth the money, but it's not worth the time, and definitely don't buy timeshare. Westgate, there's this mystery shack in Oregon that's full of random, totally not mysterious. The owner was a Turkish fez for some reason. Story 53, Spain. If someone that looks Romani tries to hand you a small flower or something similar, do not touch it. They will ask for money and curse you if you don't give it. Also, coins are cursed, so you have to give bills, 5 being the lowest. Just a polite no gracias, and walk away. Also, if there's pictures of the food on the menu outside, avoid that place. Story 54, sadly. It's the London Aquarium for me. I used to visit the place several times since 2002, It's heralded as the best aquarium in Britain, but unfortunately, it's very basic compared to even smaller aquariums in towns like Bournemouth, but I was okay with that because I love looking at sharks. What stopped me from going anymore besides the COVID was because since 16, the aquarium started hiring people to accost visitors as soon as they paid the entry fee, and to get the visitors to pose for pictures which were mandatory if they wanted to see the animals. So you start posing and feeling like an idiot. And when they're satisfied, they let you go to enjoy the animals. So they could quickly send your pictures to a separate team to print and develop them without your consent. And by the time you head for the exits, you get accosted yet again by a different team of desperate college kids holding printed calendars booklets with your pictures plastered all over them. They would be absolutely polite and cheerful, but they would do their damnedest to guilt you into purchasing something because they did all the trouble printing off you in your family's best moments, or because ITLL helped finance the aquarium. I hear the same thing was being done at the London Zoo, which really upset a lot of locals and tourists. As much as I love animals, I didn't like getting griffed after paying $20 per person to visit. Havana, Cuba women in colorful dresses will swarm unsuspecting tourist men and pose for a picture then demand money. They get very aggressive if you don't pay. Don't engage. China for us, it was in Shanghai. Guided tours will take you places like an old silk factory and show how it was made. Then you walk through a nice curtain into the largest silk showroom you have ever seen with crazy high prices. They will offer to ship everything home, so you don't have to carry it around. Not really a tourist trap, but a lot of hotels give you their car to help you get home. Some cabbies in Shanghai will see the card and just refuse to drive you and yell at you to get out of the cab. Italy, avoid the obvious main strip areas pickpockets and expensive everything. Grab a bed and breakfast off the beaten track and look 1 or 2 streets over. All of a sudden, you can feed an army wine included for the same price as a pizza in the main square. Thailand, if you rent a scooter mope bike, do not give them your driver's license, as I'd collateral seems like common sense. But some are insistent. Police will see a tourist and pull them over for not wearing a helmet. Place doesn't give you one, or for not having a license. Some places require you give it for collateral and ticket you. Just them taking advantage. In general, for any place I go, I write up a language for stupid people guide, then write some common sayings: bathroom, toilet, thank you, how much, etc., but also put in a few curse words and angry phrases for you to say, and also for you to keep an ear out for. Essentially tell aggressive scam artists to FK off.